Welcome to the show. And for what you done, we got that info for you. Touchdown on that plane, and for anything. More than just a podcast for you.
Welcome to another edition of the 10-4 YouTube show. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Jamesetta Cleveland, and joining me today are Jimmy Redovian and Iyhia McMichael. Today, we're going to keep going with our recruiting series, and we're going to talk all about baseball and softball, which I know nothing about. So I'll be deferring a lot to the experts today. And before we get started, I'm going to let our experts introduce themselves and give you a little bit about them.
I am Iyhia McMichael. I'm a graduate from Mississippi State University, where I was on a full ride scholarship there. And then I went on to play professionally for the Akron Racers. And I also played for Team USA, which was incredible to wear USA across your chest. I am now girls athletic director at a high school here in Texas. And I also am the head volleyball and head softball coach. And I am blessed to have a 10-year-old son that I'll get to chase around.
Welcome. Thanks for joining the show today.
Awesome. I'm Jimmy Redovian, and currently I'm an assistant baseball coach at Grace Christian Academy in Leapers Fort, Tennessee. I played baseball at Wake Forest for 2 years, and then I finished my career at the University of West Florida in Pensacola Beach. And then I coached in college for 4 years, 1 year for 3.5 years, 1 year at Florida Southern in Lakeland and 2.5 years at Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville. And I'm happy to be on the show.
Look at all this experience that I don't have. That's such an awesome thing. So we will dive right in. The first question of the day is, how is baseball and softball recruiting different from recruiting in other sports? Don't all speak at once. Dive right in, you know.
I'll go first, and then I'll let him go second because he's in it. I was in it for a little bit, and then I've been removed because I'm now at the high school level. But what I can say from experience from coaching, having a little bit of coaching in college, is that to me, recruiting for softball players is difficult. It's challenging because you can be at the softball field all day and not see what you need to see. So it's very challenging because it's such a technical skill when you're talking about pitching and mechanics. And is this something that can transfer for a long time, for college level for 4 years? Is it something that you feel like, you can fix and tweak and make better? And you're thinking about at bats, do they have a good swing, but do they have a good swing at the competitive level that you need them to have a good swing? Can they, how they work in counts? It's very challenging to have a good eye. But at the end of the day, you just want a good softball player. And I think that that's one of the hardest things that was one of the hardest things for me, because that was my job, is to be a recruiter, is just being able to assess talent and what is that talent stagnant? Is that as good as it's going to be? Is that something that I feel like, that we can develop? One of the things that I found that is very challenging to fix is a throw. I was an outfielder. I also pitched, but your throw is your throw. It's very challenging. I will say personally that in high school, I was a pitcher and I also played some shortstop. But I was blessed to be on a travel team with Olympic gold medalist Kat Osterman. And so when she's on the mound, you're not. And so I was moved to the outfield. And I'm so thankful to be able to call her friend now. But I moved to the outfield. So in order to change my throw from an infield throw to an outfield throw, it was very, very challenging. And I went through a lot. But I've just learned that I think that that's the hardest thing to change. And so there's some skill sets that I think it is what it is. And so I don't know. That's just my take. What you got?
Hey, Jamesetta, will you please repeat the question? My service went out for a minute, so I didn't. Can you repeat it for me so I can hear it again?
Yes. how is baseball and softball recruiting different from other sports?
Okay, good. I thought that's what the one you asked, but all right. Well, from just personal experience, just some quick differences that people won't know is baseball. NCAA baseball schools only have 11.7 scholarships to give out to a roster of 35 players,
Wait, what did you,
and
wait, did you
yeah,
just 11.7? Like,
11
what the
11.7. Yep.
okay. I'm not going to take us off on a tangent because I was like, wait, that's not a whole person. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
Right. So there's 11.7 scholarships, and only 27 out of 35 can be on those 11.7 scholarships. Okay, so you have to diversify and give money out in small ways. So the difference is most baseball players, especially at the NCAA level, aren't going to school on a fully funded scholarship. Whereas in basketball and in football, most kids go to school on a full scholarship because those programs are fully funded. And it's rosters of 75, it's rosters of 10 instead of 35. So I guess the most important thing to understand is that the scholarship the level of scholarship is very different at the college baseball and I believe softball level too. So understanding that there's a 9-to-1 odds of you getting a scholarship as a high school baseball player. It's a 9 player to 1 odd. So it's like the odds of it are really not good. So how do we use different ways to get players? Okay, so financial aid, academia stacking on top of athletic aid. These are the things that baseball coaches have to use, and I think softball is the same way, to get a fully funded roster, to get a full roster of 35, but also to get a talented roster, even though you can only give 11.7% of scholarships out. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up first because I teach a class called, if you're listening and you've been through my intro to the world of college sports class, this is the practical application of what I call a head count scholarship versus an equivalency scholarship. Like football
Mm-hmm.
is a head count sport. It's truly one person per one scholarship. But baseball and softball are equivalency, where there's a pot and you have to divide it. Now, I did not know about the 0.7. I'm still taken aback that you're expected to like,
right.
like I knew you were dividing money, but I'm like 0.7, like some accountant somewhere made an arbitrary decision. Like, can we just round it to 12? Because that's a whole person that you're talking about. That's really crazy. And you've given me a question for a future baseball show because
Okay.
I didn't know there was a difference between an infield throw versus an outfield throw. I thought a throw is a throw is a throw. So I won't take us completely on a tangent and make you explain that to me today. But just know that we will be asking that question on a future show. But I do want to take a minute and highlight something that you guys are saying that I don't think that you know that you're saying. I know that recruiting is all about potential. Like you potentially, this kid, you think what they're going to do, but you used the word, is the talent stagnant? That is that concept is something that we as parents should all be grasping because I don't think I've ever heard it said that way before. Like, how do you, as a coach, that has to be a special skill set to look at a person to say, this person hasn't peaked, because that's like what you want to do. Like you want to, you want to in track, like you practice and practice and practice, and we always wanted to peak during like nationals or regionals. Well, you want to peak a little in regionals and then peak completely in nationals. So the thought process that you as a coach have to look at a kid and be able to say, this person is going to grow with their talent, or no, they're not going to grow and with their talent. Like, can y'all just a little bit of a tangent with me? How do y'all
Yeah.
know? What do you
I'll
know?
speak on what I have seen, and then I'll let him go. But I think that that's the beauty of like tracking an athlete and trying to see how they have grown over time, because I do feel like you continue to grow. For example, when I hit the professional level, I was a much better player in my 20s than I was in college. So I do think like as women, as we get older, we get better. Um, but I think when you're tracking an athlete, I remember specifically when I was working at Ohio University, I stared and watched and looked and looked and looked at this kid swing over and over because I was trying to understand, can this swing transfer to the level of pitching that we're going to be facing and the potential that we wanted our program to go, or is this going to be as good as it going to be? Is she going to be able to transfer? So it's very challenging because you want to see, can she hit better pitching, or does she just have a good swing on the mediocre pitching? That's the challenging part. When you get to the rise balls and curve balls and off speeds and moving a runner and hitting gap to gap, can you be that player for us in the meat of our lineup? At the level that we want to play, or is this going to be as good as it get? And it is challenging. I don't know if I have a right, or if I can pinpoint a specific, thing, but it's very challenging. It's something that I love to do. I love recruiting and looking at film. But it's something that I feel like I spend a lot of time looking at the depth chart. Like, can this player fit in? Can she help us be where we need to go? So I don't know if that helped answer your question, but it is a challenging skill set as a coach because you're trying to figure out, can this kid help us or not?
Right. And I think just kind of going back off hers, some advice that I got from some coaches that I had, especially when I got into recruiting and stuff, is if you can be right on about 4 or 5 out of let's just say an 8-person class, if you can be right on 4 or 5, like you were like, okay, these kids ended up like 4 years down the road, you're like, okay, well, I recruited these 4 kids and these 4, well, they projected well. I won. I got these kids and I saw what I saw was right. And then let's say you had the other 3 that maybe didn't project as well. And, they had an okay career, or they didn't last, or they never played. But at the same time, you're like, okay, well, I had 4 that I was right on. And maybe I had 3 that I missed on. Okay. So, okay, as a recruiter, I'm okay with that because I had 4 that the majority, that's just the way of the beast. You can't be right on everybody. It's in every sport. Nobody can be right. I mean, it's like when you see in football a 5-star recruit that then 4 years down the road, where is he? But, in high school, he was the best in the country. But now where is he? So you're not going to be right on every player. But I think when I look for projectability, I'm looking for certain skill sets athletically. And first and foremost, like, is this kid athletically going to be able to compete at the level that I'm at? Or is, athletically he's behind right now. So I don't really know if he's going to be able to be there. Like, you almost have to be realistic. And it's hard sometimes because, you watch a kid, like I said over and over again, you're like, I really like that swing, but there's just something missing in it athletically. That's like, I'm not willing to give my all on this kid because there's just that one spot missing that I don't know if he projects well. And then maybe he does go somewhere else and turns to have a great career and you're wrong. But so I think it's kind of hit or miss a lot when it comes to projectability. But me personally, I'm looking for a certain athletic skill that I can see if it's going to match up at the level that I'm at.
This is so amazing. I am so fascinated. Like, I learned a new term, projectability. That's what it means. This is so amazing because I'm going to tell you why, and then I'll move us because I totally want to keep us going. But one of the biggest things and I've made this mistake too, but when you have a baby and you just look at her and you look at him, you're like, that is the next Cal Ripken. That is the next Hank Aaron. I know it. I feel it. And having a way to be objective as a parent about your child's skill set, their projectability, is a huge deal because, and in athletics, hearts are broken because we put too much pressure on kids because we don't realistically look at them and say, you know what, baby, free college is free college. And maybe, just maybe we are JUCO. There is nothing wrong with with starting off with 2 free years of college and a degree. I'm not even mad because that saves you thousands of dollars before you decide to progress to the fourth. Like, there's nothing wrong. I'm all about free college is free college. And I don't care how, well, I do care how you get it legally, but I'm just saying, it's really cool to be able to say that this is something that coaches are doing. So it's a need that parents have to, it's a skill that we have to learn and accept and be realistic about as well. And just being able to say, okay, we're not going to be on the World Series Vanderbilt baseball team. And that's okay because
Yep.
we got our free college somewhere else. Or we said, I don't want to play at all. I want to be just a regular student, or I want to do intramurals, or I want to be the manager. I learned that there's money in the managers too. It's like, who knew? But it's really great to be able to have a word for something I've been trying to convey to my moms that I work with for a long time. So projectability. Got it.
And that's so true, Jamesetta, because as you were talking, if I can interject for a second, I was thinking about a story about parents being realistic. And that is so true. And it's hard because it's your kid and you love them. But I remember I grew up wanting to play basketball for Pat Summit. So
Hey,
I remember sitting in front of the TV, like staring and like wanting to be on her team. But as I got older, my parents had a realistic conversation with me as I was starting to get recruited. And I was the top 10 softball recruit in the state of Texas. But my parents said, here are the letters that are coming in for you for softball. Here are the letters that are coming in for you for basketball. And there was a difference. There was Power 5 for softball, and it was a difference in basketball. Either way is okay, whatever you want to do, but just know you're not going to play basketball at Tennessee. You can go play softball at Tennessee, but you're not going to play basketball. And I think that was a hard conversation, but I'm very glad that she had that with me. And my mom will tell you, I wish she was on the show, because when I started getting letters, she legit said this. She goes, I knew she was good, but I didn't realize, is she really that good? I was like, from my own mom, like, that's crazy. And she was like, what? She was like, Florida. She was like, and so she will tell you this, but I was like, wow, like, you just talk about some humble pie. I was like, wow. But, I kind of do that with my own son because he is blessed, but like he'll come and I'm like, and my dad will say, you're good, but you're not there yet. And so I just kind of do that with my own son. But I think it is very important because I talk to our high school parents about that all the time, because they'll say, oh, I just want to go play at La Tech. I'm like, you don't just go play at La Tech. Like you like let's be honest about, and my thing is too, like, just because you go and participate and play at a JUCO doesn't mean that they're not good. Like, they're still competitive. You don't just walk on and have a starting spot just because it's a junior college or a D3 or D2. So I try my best to have very realistic conversations with the parents too. So it's something that we all need to learn.
Amen.
My heart was broken. I knew that Ronald was going to go be the best DB Division I had ever seen. And he got to college and he was like, they're going to play me on offense only. I was like, but wait, I had plans.
Right.
And so I remember that experience for me, and it was very hard, like I mean, Jimmy, you knew he played in high school. He played every which way. So I had realistic expectations of him going, and I just knew we was going to be it was going to be Cleveland Island because Darrell Revis at the time. I just knew, like, and then we got to Air Force and they were like, nah, well, he's going to do special teams and offense. And I was like,
right.
Dreaming and hoping. And so when I talk to parents about being realistic, I'm saying it from a place of where I had to, like, Because you know, when
Yeah.
you get the offer, you tell everybody, we're going and he's gonna, and then you have to be like, well, I know I said he was gonna be a DB. We're not even playing on defense anymore. He's just playing offense and special teams. And we're grateful for offense and special
Right.
teams. So it's good to be able to say it's realistic and it's projectability. So I'll move us along, and I'm going to ask a question that I want you guys to be super, super candid about, because this one is one that parents get confused every day. Where does the business of baseball and softball recruiting get done? Where does it happen? Parents need to know.
Do you want me to start with this?
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's funny you say the business, because baseball recruiting has become one heck of a business, especially over the past 10, 15 years. I'd say the most business that gets done, and this is nothing against high school baseball or anything, because people come out and watch games in the high school because coaches want to see, how you interact with your players and how you interact with your teammates in high school, and they want to see those games. But the big business comes in the summer circuit for high school baseball and travel baseball. Kind of like, it's almost like a club baseball type deal. But these big organizations, for example, Perfect Game, Prep Baseball Report, these are these organizations that host these tournaments. And, basically you come to these tournaments and they get all your numbers and they get video of you. And then all of a sudden you have a database on a website. So that's the big key. And also college coaches, during the high school season, college coaches are also playing. So sometimes you got a game on a Tuesday and a Wednesday midweek, and then you're going to go, let's say, travel, and you're going to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there's not really a lot of time for a college coach to get out at that point. So the summer is important. That's when college coaches will come down for example, when I was at Tennessee Tech, I spent 10 straight days in Atlanta just watching baseball, because that's what it took. That's where I was going to see the most players. And that's where I was going to be able to get a nice list and nice database of, okay, now I can go back to my boss and say, hey, I got 15 infielders I like. I got, 10 out, just based on what your needs are. I got 5 or 6 pitchers I like. I got a couple catchers I like. Here's where I think we should go. And then I share them that stuff. So for baseball, the business is done in the summers, probably with the club organizations, and, you have to, plan these tournaments, and you have to do the qualifications and stuff like that. But it is still important. A college coach, if they can, will come out to a high school game, and want to see how you're doing early in your season and stuff like that as well. But I'd say the business is done through summer ball, and then, going out to these showcases and circuits and just continuously getting your numbers updated. So a coach can see virtually that, okay, I'm a sophomore and I'm throwing 82 miles an hour, but now I'm a junior and now I'm at 85, 86 miles an hour. So how do I make sure coaches see that? Well, I go to a showcase that this websites that's just pushing out data and info. I go to these showcases and I get my numbers updated. So when a college coach does look, he doesn't see, oh, well, he's still at 82 as a junior. No, he's at 85. So he's gained some mile per hours there.
Oh, that's a good one.
Good stuff.
All right.
I don't know. That was kind of a mic drop. So I don't know how much I can add, because I was going to say the same thing. I do think that it's important for the kids to still participate in high school ball, because I feel like that's when, like, your high school coach knows you better, in my opinion, because they're interacting with you. They sometimes teach you in class. And so you kind of get to know the real athlete there. I think the high school coach has valuable information to offer a college coach, because there's a little bit more authenticity. When you go into travel, it has become more of a show. So you get to know the real athlete, in the trenches with the high school sports. But spot on. I mean, it's just camps. It's, getting on campus and positioning yourself to be in the mix with other great athletes, because that's where the real data is going to show. So If you're in a pool with some other similar talent or elite talent, and you're right there in the mix, and your numbers and your data is right there in the mix of the other athletes, then it's going to also put you on the radar. So I think that that's also important as well. But everything has, during the pandemic, has went virtual. So a lot of college coaches are spending a lot more time doing.
My thunder. That's the question. Don't steal my thunder yet. Don't
Oh,
go there.
okay. But I would just say
Go ahead.
the camps are really important to be on campus, as well as. But I do think that there is an importance to high school sports as well. I won't go there, but
I
yes.
want to pause and I want to highlight parents listening to the show. We have done soccer, football, basketball, and now we are doing baseball and softball. I want to note sport number 4, and no one has said that the business of recruiting for their sport gets done on social media. I'm going to highlight this again. Doesn't matter who's following you on Twitter. Doesn't matter if they are mentioning you, or if they're diving into your DMs on the gram. Doesn't matter if they're on your Snapchat or if they're watching your TikTok. None of that matters. The business of recruiting is not done on social media. Yes, you have a social media profile to give you visibility if you work it right. That's another show. But if you work
because it can also hurt you bad too.
Like I'm saying, if you're working right, because I'm like,
right.
But this is one of the most common misconceptions that I run into. There are parents who believe that just because a coach is following their child on social media, that means that they're being seriously considered or recruited. You're not. That just means they found you. It's a little bit of interest there, but you still have to know how to market yourself on social media. But the real business of social media, this is show number 4, and nobody, not one of y'all has said, yep, social media is the reason why coaches are giving out offers. That's it. That is it. So parents, I know I preach this and I know y'all get tired of me. Social media presence where you are easily recognized and appropriate things are on the social media page, but do not expect that just because your favorite coach is a follower that means that an offer is to come. It's just an indication of interest, and if you work it right, an opportunity to gain visibility, but it's not going to generate an offer. That's my soapbox moment. I asked this purpose because I promise you it's a bunch of people that believe that just because a coach there's lots of parents and also high school athletes that believe that just because a coach is following them on social media that means that they're seriously being considered for an offer. And I'm like, no.
It's not the business of it, but it is an aspect of recruiting, so it can hurt you. So I think that is an additional like I said, aspect of recruiting in juxtaposition of like you being on their radar. So as they're following you, just make sure that you put appropriate things on your social media platform.
Amen.
That is, yes, I love y'all. Y'all be making me look
good.
All the time.
Hey, one thing I do want to really quick say about high school sports in baseball compared to summer circuit. I think Iyhia said it best, is like you do see the real side of an athlete, and because high school sports, the high school baseball is different than the showcase summer. It's all about me. I'm not worried if the team wins. Did I go 3 for 3? Because high school, you're still seeing hey, maybe I went 0 for 4, but did we win the game? And did I help my teammates? Even when I went 0 for 4, was there still things that I did that a college coach would notice? And because that's a big thing, there are low key little details that even if that's the great thing about baseball and softball too, even if you go 0 for 4, because the best player in baseball goes 0 for 4 a lot. He goes 0 for 4 more than he goes 4 for 4. So how is that kid, how is his emotional when he doesn't have a good game? How is that, is he still positive? Is he still confident in himself? Does he still walk around like he's a good player, or does he fold and things like that? And I guess the biggest difference in why the business is done in the summer is just because it's easier for coaches to go to these games in the summer than in the high school season, because sometimes you only play on a Tuesday in a high school season, but then in the summer you're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all in a row in the same place. So the coach can just sit on you for 4 straight days, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. The nuances that matter. Like when we were doing our show on soccer, I learned that part of the business of soccer recruiting gets done at showcases where coaches can see like 400 or 500 kids at a time, but it's because they don't have a recruiting budget for travel. So you have to pick the place where you can go to see the most athletes. So if they come see you in season, that means you're really, really special. And so the juxtaposition here is they're in season when you're in season. So timing wise, they can't come see you because, like Jimmy just said, you might only play on Tuesday and they might be prepping for a Wednesday game and can't get to you on Tuesday, or they're playing when you play. So they see you in the summer because there's time in the summer. And I'm also picking up on something that maybe this is where you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but in football, I'm accustomed to lots of assistants, like lots of staff members that get out and they're like all over, tons of people. But it sounds like baseball is similar to soccer and similar to basketball in that there's not a lot of bodies for coaches to be sending all over the world, because you just don't and I might be this, you didn't say this, but this kind of what I'm picking up on, and correct me if I'm wrong. Parents also have to be mindful is that there's a smaller number of people that are going out to see the athletes. So there's just not the staff that can go out as well. Am I picking that up correctly?
100% right on that. In Division I baseball, only 3 paid assistants, 1 volunteer or graduate assistant, but only the 3 paid assistants can go out and recruit. So if you're not a paid assistant in Division I baseball, you, like, for example, I was the volunteer assistant at Tennessee Tech the first year I was there. I couldn't go out and recruit. It was against NCAA rules. But then the next year I was promoted to the second full-time assistant. So then I was now considered one of the 3 that can go out. So like you said, where football, you got all kinds of staffers going out, and, because you have to, because you got to have 70 something players. I get that. But in baseball, it's only 3. And I'm pretty sure baseball and softball college rules are like almost identical.
That's something to pick up on as well. It's really interesting, the things that I took for granted as a football parent. Ronald got recruited in 2 sports, football and basketball. And the world is very different in football than it is in other sports. And some of the things that I just thought were normal that everybody did, everybody doesn't. And so that's really good information.